Thank you for welcoming me onto your screens or onto your headphones, depending on how you're watching this. I'm Eddie, and this is The Rollback. Folks, I'm here to talk to you today about Ted Lasso, aka... Thank you, Ted? Well, more specifically, Ted Lasso Season 3. Fernie already reviewed Seasons 1 and 2, and he did a great job. Now, Season 3, Ted Lasso, deals with a lot of endings. They kind of said it from the beginning, even as far back as Season 1, that they only had this show planned for 3 seasons. Now, theoretically, that typically works. Like Breaking Bad, for example, they knew they were going to do 5 seasons. They knew from start to end where each season was going to start and end and where they were going to go. They had it all pre-planned out. They offered them, more money to do a season 4, to do a season 6 and 7, but the creator said, no, we've told our story, we're done. So typically when shows do that, it's for a good reason. And this show, I think, had a good reason and accomplished a lot of good things, but I'm not sure the execution was flawless, not gonna lie. A couple things. Well, there's a lot of story to go from. Ted, from the beginning to end, decides that he wants to go back to the US. He wants to come back to the US to be with his son. He feels like he left him, and Ted is dealing with a lot of mental issues, specifically dealing with the fallout after his father passed away and the fact that he never really dealt with that trauma. His way to deal with it is to kind of be joking. He diffuses situations with humor. Sometimes you gotta talk about it. And Ted also, in the first season, is very much at the forefront, whereas in Season 2, he became kind of a part of an ensemble cast, whereas come Season 3, he almost feels like he fades a little more into the background than I'm comfortable with. I'm glad they didn't do the whole Ted and Rebecca become a couple thing. It's just, it didn't feel like the right ending, at least to me. At least for Ted's stories, as far as concerned. On to my second, maybe first favorite character, Rory Kent, his relationship with Keeley and his bromance with Jamie. Rory Kent starts to coach Jamie. He starts to open up about his feelings, how he feels like he's not good enough for Keeley, how he kind of self-sabotages in some ways, and he's trying to deal with things. There's also a great scene where Rory's trying to learn how to ride a bike. That was awesome. That was choice. But yeah, all these characters progress forward, and it's refreshing to see where they were in Season 1 to now. Roy being this loud, belligerent jackass. Not jackass, but he has honor, but he's very over-the-top masculine, but then progressing to a point where he can talk about his feelings with people. Then you get the part where Jamie, again, he was more of the loud, arrogant ass who was actually really talented. He becomes someone who opens up about his feelings and becomes more of a team player, but also becomes great. He even takes it upon himself to do an extra practice every morning with Roy because he wants to be great. Keeley becomes, kind of leaves romance behind just a tiny bit. She ends up dating someone by the name of Jack. Friendship, they're bisexual. It's fine. Jack is actually a woman. They actually play that for a joke in the film. The show. That said, though, romance kind of takes a backseat for Keeley, whereas she's dealing with becoming a boss, a girl boss, becoming a CEO of her own small company, becoming a manager, and growing into herself, kind of taking an apprenticeship from Rebecca to some degree. We also have different things like Sam, for example, opening up his restaurant, dealing with, let's be honest, blatant racism, and also being sabotaged by a douchebag billionaire. And then we get to the complicated story. Nate. So I'll be honest with you, I wanted Nate to fall and fall hard. But instead, Nate, as the season goes and progresses, he begins to see the error of his ways and even takes it upon himself to apologize to Ted. It becomes more and more apparent that the issues that he was feeling was not really with Ted, but more with his father, and he took it out on Ted. And even him and his father have a nice chat, and they say, his father says, I didn't know how to raise a genius. You saw things other people couldn't, and I didn't know how to help you. I did what I thought I could do, and I'm sorry. Which, yeah, sounds about right. Now, here's the thing, though. It feels a little disingenuous at the fact that everyone's story kind of wraps up in a positive fashion. They did leave several doors open for spin-offs, which I could see happening. Maybe AFC Richmond, just the show minus Ted. I could see that happening. It's just, it didn't feel like they finished the story. So in wrestling, there's something called a swerve. A swerve is when you expect something to happen, but instead of A happening, B happens. And this show had a lot of swerves. Here's the thing. A lot of those swerves were good things. Instead of melodrama happening, characters would talk out their problems or their issues. They'd work it out, or you'd understand what's going on and why. And oftentimes swerves were good things in the show. They managed to pull them off in a way that felt natural, but also things that actual people would do. For example, conversations that could have gone completely off the rails, or relationships that could have gone completely off the rails, were handled properly because the two people just fucking talk to each other. That said, sometimes the thing that we want should happen. Sometimes it's obvious because it's the right thing to do. You don't always have to swerve us. In that case being, I do think that AFC Richmond should have won. They lose in the end. They get second place. And I understand, like, it's even in one of the songs, it's better to have fought and lost than never to have fought at all. Fair enough. But the whole show, they've been fighting to get there. And I understand, like, they had to come back from relegation, but I feel like that was a mistake for AFC Richmond to lose. Granted, they're probably leaving it there. That way, Roy has a goal to attend or to shoot for in the spin-off, which I can understand. It just doesn't really feel right now. Maybe it will in the future, but it doesn't right now. Rebecca, she has a bit of an odd story arc where you're not sure if she is or isn't going to get with Sam. I'm glad she didn't. I'm glad she got with the pilot. It's just like, I feel like Rebecca, she got through Rupert. She beat him. She finally got over him. She helped deal with the fallout as far as like him and his mistress and workplace inappropriateness and whatnot, which is all good things. It's just, again, it feels like Rebecca at one point in the season finale says that she's considering selling the team, which doesn't feel in line. Like, it doesn't feel right. Like, I never believed once that she was going to sell the team. And because of that, it felt like her arc was off. It shouldn't have been about her selling the team. Maybe it should have been about her taking charge of the league and becoming like the head owner of the league or something like that. Like, there's a different direction you could have gone that maybe felt right, rather than her being like, maybe I should just leave and run. Rebecca wouldn't do that. I don't know. Sometimes it's not about what you do, it's about how you leave them. And it doesn't feel like this finale didn't feel right. And I don't know if it's because a lot of the stories were left hanging for spin-offs, or if it's because what we wanted to happen didn't happen. I'm not quite sure. But a rocky landing does not take away from the great experience that we had going up. That said, I'll give this series finale like a B, but the show overall is definitely an A. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso, I highly recommend it. It's a great show all over. It's just, maybe with the spin-offs, the ending will feel better. But maybe that's just me. But what did you think of Ted Lasso, the final season? What did you think? Go ahead and comment down below. We greatly appreciate it. Also, maybe be sure to check out our podcast down below. Again, we greatly appreciate it. That said, I've been Eddie, and this was The Rollback. See you, everyone.